the woman who thought she was attending a wedding. But it was her last goodbye. Her entire family flew across the world to say goodbye, but no one told her she was dying, not even her favorite granddaughter. Mara's phone rang at 2:13 a.m., and the moment she saw the caller ID from China, she knew something was wrong. It wasn't a birthday. It wasn't a holiday. Calls from that part of the world only came when something broke. She answered half asleep, but the voice on the other end snapped her awake. "It's Nai," her cousin Eli said. Mara sat up straight. "What about her?" "She's sick. Real sick. Stage 4 lung cancer. Doctors say maybe 3 months, but she doesn't know." Mara blinked, silent. "She doesn't know," she repeated. "Number. They're not telling her. Not my dad, not your mum, not anyone." That hit hard. She didn't even know what to say. Eli kept going. "They're throwing a fake wedding for my brother and Ava. Just an excuse to get everyone together and say goodbye without telling her what's actually happening." Mara rubbed her forehead. "You're joking. They already booked the venue. My parents are flying out next week. Yours too. Everyone's coming. Everyone but you so far. So they're going to lie to her face for 2 weeks straight. Not lie, just keep her happy." "That's the same thing," Mara said. Eli didn't push back, just silence. And maybe that was worse than arguing. Mara laid in bed after the call ended, staring at the ceiling, fully awake. Nai had raised her for 2 summers when she was a kid. Back when her parents were juggling jobs and stress, Nai was the one who made her feel safe. She'd brush Mara's hair, scold her in 2 languages, sneak her extra dumplings after dinner, and call her Little Bird. She was the only adult in the family who made her feel like she belonged, even with her awkward Mandarin and her American shoes. Now she was dying, and everyone was pretending it wasn't happening. Mara booked a flight at 3:04 a.m. She wasn't sure why. She just knew she couldn't not go. 12 hours later, she was dragging her suitcase through a crowded airport in China. The air hit her like warm soup, heavy and full of something old. Her uncle met her at arrivals, holding a laminated sign that said Mara, like he didn't recognize her face anymore. They didn't hug. He just nodded and said, "You look tired." She answered, "You look like someone keeping a secret." He didn't respond. Nai's apartment hadn't changed. Same old couch, same green rice cooker, same smell of vinegar and steamed cabbage. But the moment she opened the door, Mara felt her stomach twist. Because Nai looked good. Too good. Full of energy. Happy. She hugged Mara tight and smiled with her whole face. "My little bird, you're so skinny." "What? Americans don't feed their children anymore." Mara laughed, but it sounded fake. "You look great," she said, and meant it, but also didn't. They sat down. Nai poured tea and talked about the wedding, how beautiful Ava would look, how happy she was that her family was growing. Mara smiled through all of it, barely speaking. Every second was a reminder that this woman had no idea she was running out of time. Dinner that night was loud. The entire family was already there. Cousins, uncles, people Mara barely recognized. All of them laughing, joking, talking about wedding flowers and venues and guest lists. No one mentioned cancer. No one mentioned doctors. No one mentioned anything real. It was like watching a sitcom filmed over a funeral. After dinner, Mara stepped out onto the balcony. Eli joined her, leaning on the railing. "This is insane," she said. "We're pretending she's not dying." "She's happy," Eli answered. "She laughs all day. She sleeps fine. She doesn't need to know. What about what she deserves? What she deserves is a good ending, not a sad one. That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about what would happen if someone told her she had 3 months to live. Would she want to know? Would she do things differently? Would Nai? In the morning, Nai made breakfast. Congee, scallions, pickled radish. She handed Mara a bowl and said, "You're quiet. You okay?" Mara nodded, lying. Just jet lag. Nai looked at her for a moment. Really looked. Then she said, "You're not sick, but you look like someone who knows something she's not supposed to say." Mara's hands froze around the bowl. "I'm fine," she said again, softer. Nai didn't press, just smiled gently. "Sometimes silence is heavier than truth," she said, and went back to cooking. Mara sat there stunned. Either she was guessing, or she already knew. And if Nai did know, then this whole thing was even more complicated. The next few days blurred together. Family meetings, food tastings, dress rehearsals for a wedding that wasn't real. Nai laughed at everything. She kept talking about the future, about great-grandkids, about vacations she'd never take, about new curtains for the bedroom. Every time she spoke, it was like a knife twisting deeper, because every word was based on a future that didn't exist. And Mara, she kept smiling, kept nodding, kept lying, until the night Nai knocked on her door. She was holding a bowl of soup. "You missed dinner," she said. "I figured you might be sad." Mara took the bowl with shaking hands. "I'm not sad," she whispered. Nai raised an eyebrow. "Then why are your eyes always red when I walk past your room?" Mara didn't answer. Couldn't. She just stood there, holding the bowl, tears threatening to spill. Nai put a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to say it, whatever it is. Some things are too big for words. But I want you to know this. If there's something you're carrying, you don't have to carry it alone." And just like that, she turned and walked away. Mara closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't touch the soup. She just stared at the floor, heart pounding. Maybe Nai knew, maybe she didn't. But either way, Mara realized something terrifying. She wasn't lying to protect Nai. She was lying to protect herself. And this lie, it was only just beginning. By the 4th day, everything was set. Ava had her dress. Eli's brother had his speech half memorized. The banquet hall was reserved. Nai had picked out her favorite pearl earrings and even bought a new red envelope to fill with wedding money. The whole thing looked real. It sounded real. But underneath it all, it felt like a countdown with no clock. Mara could barely keep her face straight anymore. Nai was still smiling, still asking about cake flavors, still bragging to neighbors about her grandson's big day. But something had shifted. Mara noticed it. Less energy in her voice. A few missed steps on the stairs. A cough that came back twice in one afternoon. No one mentioned it. No one dared. At breakfast, Mara caught her uncle slipping something into Nai's tea. A small pill crushed and mixed in with the sugar. He acted like nothing happened. Nai didn't ask. Mara stared at her bowl of rice for the next 20 minutes. That evening, the family met in the living room, like it was a war room. Ava looked pale. Eli kept pacing. "She's asking about the honeymoon," Ava said. "She wants to buy us a trip to Hainan." "Just tell her we haven't planned it yet," Eli replied. "She wants to go dress shopping with me tomorrow," Ava said. "Do you understand how weird that is? She's picking out a dress for a wedding that's not real." "She's happy," Mara's mom said. "Just smile and let her enjoy it." Mara stood up. We can't keep pretending. Her mom glared. You will not be the one to ruin this. It's not real, Mara snapped. It's a lie built on another lie, and now we're just hoping she dies before she figures it out. No one spoke. Eli sat down slowly. You think I don't feel guilty? We all do. But she raised us. She's strong. And if she wants to believe her family is growing, not falling apart, then maybe we give her that. Mara walked out. She didn't cry. She didn't want to give them the satisfaction. She just walked the neighborhood streets until the sky turned black and the streetlights came on. The smells of dumplings, car exhaust, and summer sweat filled the air. It reminded her of when she was 9, walking those same streets with Nai, holding hands and buying popsicles. Back then, everything felt simple. Back then, everyone told the truth. The next morning, Mara sat alone on the balcony, trying to find the right words. She was thinking about confronting Nai, about telling her everything. But before she could decide, Nai came out holding a red envelope and a rolled-up paper. I need your help with something, she said, smiling. Mara followed her inside. On the kitchen table was an old piece of paper covered in faded ink. It was a will, handwritten, not official, just names and boxes and numbers. Nai pointed to a small section. This part is for you, she said. Mara looked at it, confused. What is this? My house, my savings, some jewelry. I've been updating it since your first summer here. Mara froze. Nai, why are you showing me this? Nai looked at her, still smiling, but her eyes were sharp. Because people hide things from me. I know that. But I'm not stupid. I don't need a diagnosis to feel what's happening in my own body. Mara's heart dropped. You know. Nai reached for her hand. I don't need to know the details, just that something's ending. And I don't want it to end with everyone pretending I'm fragile. Mara tried to speak, but nothing came out. She squeezed her grandmother's hand tighter than she meant to. I want to enjoy what's left, Nai said, but I also want to leave things in order. Not for me, for all of you. Mara nodded slowly. You're not fragile. I know that, she said, but I also know what love looks like when people don't know how to say goodbye. That night, Mara sat in her room holding the will. Part of her felt relief. Part of her felt like she'd just seen a ghost confess it was alive. The next day, everything went back to normal. No one mentioned wills. No one mentioned cancer. But Mara walked around with the crushing truth that her grandmother had known everything and had chosen to play along. She watched Ava try on dresses while Nai clapped, watched Eli fumble through a rehearsal speech, watched her mom argue with a florist about the wrong shade of red, and she realized something. The wedding wasn't fake. It was real. Not the vows, not the marriage license, but the moments, the effort, the love in the lies. They were all doing the best they could with the time they had. Still, that didn't make it easier, because as the day of the wedding approached, Nai's cough got worse, and her smile started to fade. Mara counted every laugh like it might be the last. And then the phone call came. Not about Nai, about someone else, and everything they'd planned. It was about to fall apart. The day of the wedding came faster than anyone expected. The banquet hall was ready. Dozens of tables, a red carpet. Golden dragons curled above the main stage, giant floral arches. Strings of paper lanterns swaying above trays of duck and noodles. It looked beautiful. It looked expensive. It looked like a celebration. But behind the decorations and forced smiles, everyone was cracking. Ava was pale, sweating in her dress. Eli's brother kept messing up the fake vows. Nai moved slower than usual, gripping the edge of the table when no one was looking. And Mara could barely stand still. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. Her chest felt like it was full of bricks. No one talked about the will. No one brought up the hospital. No one mentioned the cough that had gotten worse every morning. Everyone was locked into their roles, pretending like this was a real wedding, pretending they hadn't flown across the world to watch someone slowly fade. When Nai walked into the hall, everyone stood up. She wore a deep blue dress with hand-stitched patterns and those pearl earrings she'd been saving for something special. She smiled. She waved. She whispered blessings to the bride and groom like it was all real. And for the first 20 minutes, it worked. Photos were taken, champagne poured, people laughed. Then Ava broke. It happened in the middle of a toast. One of the aunts stood up, rambling about love, children, family legacies. Eli's brother raised his glass. The crowd followed. Everyone clapped. And Ava just stood there, frozen. People started to notice. A couple of guests leaned over. Eli whispered something in her ear. She didn't respond. Then she turned to Nai. "I'm sorry," she said, barely louder than a breath. Nai looked confused. "Sorry for what, dear?" Ava took a step back. "This isn't real," she said. The room fell silent. "This whole thing, it's not real. There's no wedding. There was never going to be one." Someone gasped. Someone dropped a spoon. Eli tried to step in, but Ava kept going. "I can't do it. I thought I could, but I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't stand here and lie to the only person in this family who actually sees us." Nai stared at her, not blinking. Ava walked out. Just like that. The room didn't move. No one spoke. The music stopped. Eli chased after her, yelling her name. The door swung open, slammed shut. The guests sat in stunned silence. And Nai smiled. A soft, small smile. She nodded to herself and took a sip of tea. Mara saw it. Only her. Later, in the hallway, the family regrouped. "She ruined everything," one uncle muttered. "We were almost done." "No," Mara said. "She didn't ruin anything. She just told the truth." "You don't get it," her mum snapped. "This was supposed to protect Nai." "From what?" Mara shot back. "From feeling like we care about her. From knowing she's not stupid. From realizing we flew halfway across the world to say goodbye, but were too cowardly to use those words." Eli walked back in, alone. His shirt was soaked in sweat, his face pale. "She's gone. She left, took a cab. She's not coming back." No one responded. That night, the reception went on in awkward silence. Guests ate quietly. Nai danced slowly with two of her friends and clapped politely for a slideshow that made no sense anymore. When she sat down beside Mara, she whispered, "Your generation carries everything too loudly." Mara looked at her. "We're not good at pretending." "Pretending is not always lying," Nai said. "Sometimes it's just making space for other people to breathe." Mara didn't know what to say. Nai continued, "I knew it wasn't real. All of it, from the beginning. But it made me happy. And it brought you here. So, was it really fake?" Mara's throat tightened. "You should sleep," Nai said, rising slowly. "You're always thinking too much." That night, Mara sat alone in the guest room, staring at her phone. There were messages from New York. Her boss asking if she was coming back. her roommate asking if she wanted to adopt another cat. All of it felt small, distant. Then another message came in. From Avenue. I'm sorry, I couldn't keep going. But I think she already knew. I think she forgave us all before we even got here. The next morning, Nai didn't come out of her room for breakfast. Her door was closed. Her tea was cold. And the lie they'd built so carefully wasn't enough anymore. Then another message came in. From Avenue. I'm sorry, I couldn't keep going. But I think she already knew. I think she forgave us all before we even got here. The next morning, Nai didn't come out of her room for breakfast. Her door was closed. Her tea was cold. And the lie they'd built so carefully wasn't enough anymore. Mara was the first one to knock. No answer. She waited, then knocked again. Still nothing. She opened the door slowly. Nai was sitting in bed, upright, hands folded neatly in her lap, staring out the window like she'd been doing it for hours. Mara stepped inside. Nai. Nai looked over and smiled, but it was tired, soft, like something had been taken out of her. You ever realize, she said quietly, how much time we spend trying to make pain feel polite? Mara sat at the edge of the bed. She wanted to say 100 things, but none of them felt right. Instead, she reached for her hand. Nai squeezed it gently. Tell me the truth, she said. How bad is it? Mara froze. Then slowly she nodded. It's not good. They say a few months, maybe less. Nai looked down at her lap. No tears, no panic, just a small nod. I figured. You really didn't know? Mara asked. Not exactly, she said. But when the whole family flies across the world and throws a wedding in your honor, you start doing the math. She laughed, a dry little sound. It's a terrible wedding, by the way. The food was cold. They sat in silence for a long time. Not awkward, just real. By noon, the family had gathered in the living room. Eli, his parents, Mara's mother, uncles, aunts, the whole crew. No one knew what to say. Then Nai walked in. She was still in her robe, hair undone, no makeup. And yet, she looked stronger than any of them. Sit, she said. Everyone did. No more pretending. I know what's happening. And I'm not angry, but I'm tired of being lied to in the name of love. Mara watched as every adult in that room suddenly looked like a child. I understand why you did it, Nai continued. I know you thought you were protecting me, but I've lived longer than any of you. I buried people. I felt loss. I've sat next to hospital beds and held hands that didn't squeeze back. I don't need a false celebration. I need honesty, even if it hurts. Eli stood up, eyes glossy. We were scared, Nai. We didn't want to lose you while you were still here. You don't lose me by telling me the truth, she said. You lose me by hiding behind it. No one responded. Nai looked over at Mara. You always spoke your mind. I knew you'd be the one to tell me eventually. I almost did, Mara whispered. But I couldn't. I'm glad you didn't. I got to see everyone, hear laughter, feel love, even if it came wrapped in fear. That night dinner was quiet. Not awkward this time. Just still. Honest. No more talk of weddings. No more jokes about honeymoons or future babies. Just family. Real, messy, broken family. And for the first time, it felt right. Mara sat across from Nai and noticed how tired she looked. She'd aged 10 years in the last 2 days. The energy was gone. The spark was fading. But she still smiled when she caught Mara looking. After dinner, Nai handed Mara a letter, folded, unmarked. Don't open it yet, she said. Not until I'm gone. Mara hesitated. Don't say that. It's not sad, she said. It's a gift. The family stayed in China for another week. The wedding was never mentioned again. Instead, they cooked together, took photos, shared stories they'd never told before. It felt like what they should have been doing from the beginning. Mara spent every night in Nai room, just sitting, talking, sometimes saying nothing, sometimes laughing about things that didn't matter. And every morning, Nai looked a little smaller. On the final day, as they packed for the airport, Nai handed Mara a red envelope. One last lie, she said with a wink. What's inside? Cash. I'm still Chinese. Some traditions don't change. They hugged at the gate. It felt final, heavier than goodbye. And 2 weeks later, the call came. This time, no fake wedding, no made-up celebration. Just silence on the line before Eli said, "She's gone." Mara sat on the edge of her bed and opened the letter. Inside was a single sentence. You were always my truth. 3 weeks after the funeral, Mara was back in New York. Same tiny apartment, same broken AC, same dead plant on the windowsill. But everything felt off. The city was louder, but she noticed it less. Her job felt smaller. Her routines felt useless. The world kept spinning, and Mara wasn't sure if she wanted to keep up. She kept the red envelope in her jacket pocket, carried it everywhere. She hadn't spent the cash. She hadn't touched the pearl ring Nai left in the box either. It didn't feel right to use anything yet. Not until something changed. People at work tiptoed around her. Some asked how the wedding went. She just nodded and said, "Beautiful." That was the easiest answer. At night, she'd lie on the couch and replay every moment in China. Not the fake wedding, not the arguments, just the quiet moments. The way Nai hummed in the kitchen, the way she held her tea with both hands, the way she knew everything and still smiled anyway. She read the letter more times than she could count. You were always my truth. That sentence stuck in her ribs like a second heartbeat. One afternoon, she visited a bookstore Nai would have loved. Wooden shelves, quiet, the kind of place where no one rushes you. In the back, there was a writing desk on sale. Old, chipped, solid wood. She bought it without thinking, hauled it back to her place. It didn't fit in the corner, so she moved her couch. She didn't care. For the first time in weeks, something felt clear. Mara sat down and opened her laptop. She opened a new document. She wrote the words. She didn't know she was dying, but she knew we were lying. And then she kept writing. The story poured out, the real one. No filters, no metaphors, just what happened. The flight, the call, the lie, the soup, the letter. She wrote until sunrise, and then again the next night, and again the night after that. 2 weeks later, she printed the whole thing, sent it to 3 publishers. Didn't expect anything. But the third one emailed back. They didn't ask if the story was real. They didn't ask to change the ending. They just said, "We felt it." When the book came out, it was small, quiet. It didn't make headlines, but it sold, slowly. People passed it to each other, book clubs, college dorms, airport bookstores. No marketing, just word of mouth. And one day, months later, Mara got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo of an old woman in a hospital bed smiling. And on the back, one sentence written in blocky, shaky handwriting. "Thank you for saying what we couldn't." Mara framed it and hung it above the desk. She never wrote another book. She didn't have to. The truth was already out there. And sometimes, once is enough.